Good morning from a beautiful camp spot along the Orange River. Today is day 6 of the NAMAKWA Eco Trail. We're looking forward to today. We've got 50 kilometers of driving to do on the official road, but we also might go off a few little loops to some viewpoints and up some canyons and stuff like that. So I'm guessing it's probably going to be more like 70 or 80 kilometers in total today, but I guess we'll see. It's a beautiful morning with absolutely no wind, so we're going to make the most of that opportunity and kind of spend a couple hours here at the camp this morning. We've got a gas geyser set up. We've got the pump in the river, so we can shower as long as we want this morning. And the plan is to make use of that and actually wash our hair and shave and kind of freshen up properly, because over the next few days we're not going to be at the Orange River anymore. We're going to be camping in the mountains, and in that heat we're going to get sweaty and all of that. So getting clean now and making use of unlimited shower time is probably a good idea. And I think after that we're probably going to slowly start packing up and slowly start heading out and just take the day slow. We've got plenty of time today, we've got great weather by the looks of things, so it should be good. The first hour or so of our trip this morning is a road that's hardly ever driven. It's very soft, like riverbed dust and big boulders that get exposed whenever the wind picks up. So this whole section is going to be low first and low second. So slow going, but I do enjoy the technical side of the driving as well. We just have to be careful not to damage our tires or get stuck.
Yeah.
We enter the rugged and unforgiving Helskloof, or in English, Hell's Canyon, and from here on out, we won't see the Orange River again until the very end of the trail. We'll miss the river, but this part of the trail is full of its own surprises. These are petroglyphs, or drawings on the rocks, that were obviously engraved by the original inhabitants of this area, which were the San people, the San Bushmen, who somehow survived in this dry desert. I don't know how. Maybe they just lived off the Orange River, but I mean, the San people are known to be amazing at living off dry areas. It looks like they've actually taken like a tool and just chipped a little bit away from these rocks to draw these patterns. They weren't very good, whoever drew this, because I cannot make out what on earth they were trying to draw. Maybe it was kids playing around or something, but either way, it's cool to see something that's so old. Who knows how many thousands of years old these are. Just a pity to see all the graffiti on here from other visitors. Come on guys, don't do that. If you're coming through a place like this, respect it and let history stay history. We don't know it yet, but today's drive is going to end up being much longer than we first anticipated, both in terms of distance and time, as we're about to head off the main trail towards the so-called Crystalberg route, which would require us to slow down to a snail's pace. With twisted rocks and towering walls of mountains on both sides, we know that we're in for an adventure, and we cross fingers as we take the fork on the left down a barely visible road and chug on in low range. There is a little offshoot from the main road, the main Helskloof road, that essentially does a loop through the main Helskloof valley. Apparently it's very scenic and picturesque. It's not on the Gaia GPS app database, so I couldn't actually mark the road out, but it is on Tracks for Africa maps. Like the Tracks for Africa app that I've got as well shows it, and in the directions that we got when we booked this trail, the paper directions. So we're gonna just follow this road through here and see where it takes us. And I've hit record on Guide GPS, so Guide GPS can record the route as well, so we can see what kind of elevation gain and loss and what kind of distances we're driving. And I can also then screenshot that or record it and show you when I publish this video as well. But nice to go off the beaten track a little bit, and hopefully we see some cool stuff. We are crawling along really slowly, and there are a few really good reasons for this. Firstly, although I have good tyres and a pretty reliable vehicle, we're very aware of the fact that we're on a track that nobody may drive through for the next few weeks, and if anything does go wrong, nobody's going to be able to help us. The other reason is that we have nothing to go by but the Tracks for Africa map, which isn't exactly the best resolution, so it's very likely that we may veer off the trail if we're not watching it closely. And let's not forget that the views around us were truly spectacular. The slower we drive, the more these beautiful scenes can be appreciated. The road forks once again as we begin the anti-clockwise loop, and we move further into complete and utter wilderness. Do you ever have a moment where you just pull off somewhere and just get out and look around and think to yourself, where the heck am I? I'm having one of those moments now. Just beautiful mountains all around with very, very interesting rock structures. But man, it is remote here. People haven't driven through here in a very long time. I can tell this road never gets used. And stuff I'm seeing around me, I mean, it's really, really dead. There's nothing here but rocks. So, yep, it's a privilege to be here. These views are pretty crazy, but man, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's crazy. We do not want to get stuck here. Driving very, very carefully. Don't want to get punctures. Yep, survival, I guess, is the aim of the game. This loop takes us up one river valley, gaining altitude the whole way, and then up over a hill and around a 180-degree turn before descending down another river valley that eventually joins up with the first one to complete the loop. Being a river valley, most of the stones at the bottom are relatively rounded riverbed stones, which aren't such a puncture risk, but do shake you around like hell. There are also some sharper sort of shale stones every now and again that provide a smoother ride, but can tear the sidewalls of the tires if we're not careful, so we continue driving very slowly. We round the loop, and at a high point overlooking the second valley, we decide to stop for lunch with a view. Well, we've stopped off on a random little viewpoint here in the Helskloof Valley for lunch. It's just past 1 o'clock, so we're looking for a good spot, and I think this is probably as good as we're going to get. Amazing view over the valley here. It's very hot, 35 degrees Celsius, not quite as hot as yesterday, but hot enough where we need to put the awning out, have a nice ice cold glass of water, and just enjoy the shade. But amazing views, so wild. I don't think I've ever been in a place this rocky and rugged. We basically parked on big blocks of quartz at the moment, and this whole area is just rocks. It really is like hell. It might be a hellish environment, but our simple lunch is heavenly, and we are surprised to see that there are actually quite a variety of succulents and plants that are well adapted to surviving out here. It's pretty crazy. It was nice to stop for lunch, but in this heat, we actually wanted to just be inside the air-conditioned vehicle, so we soon hit the road again, descending down towards the bottom of the valley. The trail back down towards the close of the loop was actually in much worse condition than the way up, and to make it worse, we had to cross the dry riverbed many times. It may not rain here often, but when it does, flash floods can rip through here and carry much of the sand with them, leaving the rocks and boulders exposed. Our average speeds for this loop, as recorded by Gaia GPS, was around 5 km per hour. I think that pretty much sums up how rough this road was. We tried to speed up once or twice, but a couple slams on the bash plate and that's enough to make us decide to rather take the cautious approach. A few hours later, we finally come towards the close of the loop. I would highly recommend doing this part of the trail. It was incredible, but be very prepared and make sure to budget for time. It will take about 4 to 5 hours at least. I will say this, if you're going to do any trail that's in a relatively remote area, make sure that you have multiple map sources. We've got a few paper maps, although they aren't that detailed. We've got maps from the people who kind of maintain the whole NAMAKWA Eco Trail, which also aren't that detailed. And then we've got Gaia GPS, which has got all the topographical satellite imagery, which is extremely helpful. And I've downloaded offline maps for this entire area. There wasn't a road, but satellite images at least tell you where it looks drivable. And if you zoom in enough, you sometimes do see a road. But the one that really got us through this was Tracks for Africa. Tracks for Africa, I think it's an open source free app for any smartphone, and it's got all the maps in the whole of Southern Africa, all the roads. There's no satellite imagery, that's why working with Gaia GPS and Tracks for Africa has been really helpful. But at least Tracks for Africa tells us where these roads are, and tells us where some of the turns are. So if we come to an intersection and we're not sure which way to go, we can open the Tracks for Africa map and look. So these little things you learn along the way, but I'm really grateful that I went like above and beyond in doing my research. Otherwise we'd be very lost here. This road that we're currently on right now, sometimes the road completely disappears. It looks like people haven't been here in months. Moral of the story, be prepared, and if you are properly prepared, you'll have a good time. We finally end the Crystalberg loop and join up with the main trail once again. And straight away, there are signs that this road is travelled way more frequently, as there are stone cairns almost as far as the eye can see, marking the entrance to the Richters Fault World Heritage Site.
Like, this is a lot of work. This is hundreds.
Just shows how many people have actually been through here.
I wonder if like some people just thought, okay, cool, we're gonna make a whole bunch today.
How far it
This
goes,
person was just like, do the minimal amount of work. Giant rocks, take some stones. Look at that one over there. That one's like proper architect work over there.
Yeah. The Richters Fault World Heritage Site is an area of historical and cultural significance, and you need a permit to drive through here. This permit is included with the NAMAKWA Eco Trail fees. What makes this area special is that it's the cultural home of the nomadic Nama people, who are the original inhabitants with their own culture, their own language, and their own way of life. NAMAKWA actually means NAMAKWA, which is another word for these people, and the NAMAKWA Eco Trail helps to contribute to the conservation of the area and the culture. Flight beginning to fade a little bit, we hit the gas and pick up some speed on a very well graded gravel road that climbs up towards the spot where we'll be camping tonight. Once again, we are surprised by the number of small succulents that manage to grow here. We make it to our camp spot and back up against a rock face which will provide a nice sheltered area from the sun and the wind. A rock under the back wheel levels the vehicle so we don't roll out of bed tonight. Well, finally at camp after a really long day. We're expecting to do 50 kilometers or so today, and we ended up doing 106, which is a lot, and it's been hot today as well. So we've just found a camp spot right next to a rock. Hopefully that gives us some shelter. And the first point of call, first item on the agenda is to have a nice ice cold beer and just cool down and relax. And hopefully it starts getting cool as the sun goes down and we can make a nice fire and cook supper. But I have a feeling it's going to be an early night tonight and probably another early morning tomorrow. Dinner tonight is teriyaki prawns with noodles, quick and easy and so delicious after a long day of driving. 11 hours on the road to be exact. Tomorrow, another really long driving shift awaits as we prepare for a long slog of over 200 kilometers to bring the trail to an end.